Morning as we go to the chitas of today. Today is Monday, the second reading in the portion of Achrei. We are holding on chapter 16. Chapter 16, verse number 18. And then he goes out to the Mizbeach. Asher lefnei Hashem, which is before God. He takes from the blood. We're talking about what he did with the par, the bull, his bull, and the bull of the sow and the goat of the Jewish people, which he brought as a korban chatos. He brought that blood into the Holy of Holies, and he sprinkled it on the aron, on the ark, and then he took the oath of the blood, he sprinkled it on the pareches, on the curtain that divided between the Holy of Holies and the Holy. Then he took it, the Yatzel HaMizbeach, he went out. Over here means out, doesn't mean out of the Beis Hamikdash. He went out from the outside of the Mizbeach. So even though he was when he turned around to go to the door, the Mizbeach, the golden altar, there was an inside part, there was an outside part, so to say. He could have gone to the inside part first. It was the closest to him. The Torah says v'yotza, he went out, he went to the outside part, as Rashi will explain. He takes from these two bloods, and he spills it, and he puts it, he puts it on the corners of that altar. So Rashi says, this is the golden altar, which is before the Lord in the Heichal, meaning in the temple. It was in the Heichal, was the equivalent to the holy of the Mishkan. And since the Kohen Gadol was to remain inside, and and since the Kohen Gadol was to remain inside the holy for the next procedure, what does the scripture mean to say that he would go out, v'yotza? Since he does perform the sprinkle of blood and dividing curtain, standing on the inner side of the altar, to sprinkle between the altar and dividing curtain. For the application of the altar, scripture requires to go out. So that's what it means over here. Rashi says the meaning to go out doesn't mean to go out of the temple. The meaning to go out means that he went out to the outside to the other side of the altar, not to the inner side facing the curtain, but to the outside of this altar, the golden altar that was facing the doorway, actually. So, and that's the meaning of going outside. The chiper, so he went to the northern eastern corner, even though he could have started with the southern, which is closer to him, but he went to the northern eastern corner. The chiper alav, and he brought atonement to it. Rashi said, what was the procedure that affects the atonement? As the verse continues, so take some of the bull's blood and some of the he-goat's blood, and he mingled with others. So this Yom Kippur, in essence, if you get the whole gist of the Torah, Yom Kippur was to bring atonement on Aaron, on his family, on the Jewish people, on the temple itself. For many things happened in the temple that people didn't know. They did it unintentionally, maybe they themselves didn't know, and they brought impurities in the Beis Hamikdash, where the Kohen was impure, and he did the service inside. He put the Keteris on the altar, and he was impure. The Kohen Gadol needed to bring forgiveness on that day to everything that happened in the Jewish people, whether it was the Jews or the Kehanim, or ultimately the Beis Hamikdash, things that were done in the Beis Hamikdash unintentionally, or as the Torah says, even intentionally. The Kohen Gadol brought forgiveness on everything. He sprinkled, then he takes from the blood, he sprinkled the Sheva Pamim 7 times on this altar. V'tirei mikdushas tumas beisol, and he cleansed it and sanctified it of the defilement of the children of Israel. So Rashi says, after he applied the blood and the index finger on its horns, he shall then sprinkle 7 sprinkles on top of the incense altar. V'tirei, and he shall cleanse it from any defilement that occurred in the past. V'kitshoi, and he will sanctify it from any situation that will happen in the future. Verse 20, and he shall finish what an effect of the atonements for the holy. Anything that happened in the tent of meeting. And anything that happened on the altar. And then he shall bring the living goat. If they had done the service of the goat that was brought, remember the 2 goats of the Jewish people. One was for the service in the temple, and now he did with the second goat, the second living goat, which was me sent away. So what do you do with that goat? He leaned his hands upon he leaned his hand on this living goat, and he would do confessions. Confession for who? I'll call out Venus Beisol, for all the sins of the Jewish people. Val Pishem, on their rebellions. That means it. Val Chol Chatosam, and on all the unintentional sins. So we have intentional sins, rebellion, and even unintentional sins. But Nasan Eisel Asar, and he puts all these upon this goat. V'shilach bi'ad ish iti amidbara. And he sent this off to the desert with a timely man. What means a timely man? Ish iti. So Rashi says, Ish iti means somebody hamuchalakach. They prepared a guy. Because this is a long walk. And it was Yom Kippur, it was a fast day. So this was a long walk. It was a couple of mile walk that he had to walk from the Beis Hamikdash to this mountain. Miyayim Esvot, this was already prepared from the day before. The place was prepared. The kohen was prepared, everything was prepared, everything was ready. Verse 22, and this goat will carry upon itself all the iniquities. Aladad Gezeda to a precipitous place, or Gezeda, many means the word Gezeda, a very rocky place. He sends the goat to the desert. And that was the Azazel. Verse 23. And now, the famous Rashi, famous Gemara, we learned this already 3 times. The verse 23, the Rashi will say it's not located in the right place. And the animal will come to the tent of meeting. Ufashan is big day abad, and he will remove the linen garments, asher lavash bevayel hakodesh, which he wore when he came to the Holy of Holies. V'nichan sham, and he'll leave it there. So actually, this Rashi will say this verse belongs after verse 26, because this was the last time that he went into the Holy of Holies to take out the pan that he left there. He left there a pan which he put the incense on. So he left there that pan. He had to go back in to take the pan. And that was almost the last service that he did. And then he did the Korban Tamid and he finished the service of the day. So this actually happened after the next services. As Rashi will say, this actually belongs in verse 27. So Rashi says, our rabbi stated in the Gemara that this is not the correct chronological place of this verse, as they gave the reasoning in the Tractate of Yuma. And they said the whole passage is correct chronological order. This whole beautiful pasha is the way it was done in the service, except for this passage. Verse 23 doesn't belong in this place. And the Gemara gives the reasoning for this follows, because this follows the performance of the burnt offering and the burnt people's burnt offerings happened after they took the animal and they burnt the chatas, they burnt it out of the temple, as the Torah will say in verse 25 and 26. So this happened after all the service of Yom Kippur. This, as I said, this was the last thing that Rashi is going to say. So the burnt and the burning of the sacrificial parts of the bull and the he-goat, which is the next two verses, which were performed outside the Holy of Holies within the Kohen Gadol attire and the golden garments. So he had to. He put on his golden garments again. Then he would immerse himself, sanctify his hands and feet, and remove them from the golden garment and wear his white garments to go and take out this, to do this verse, to come and take out the ladle of the coals. So Rashi would come into the tent to take the spoon and the pan in which he caused the incense to go up. This was the thing where he went again into the Holy of Holies. Why would he go again into the Holy of Holies? He went twice into the Holy of Holies, one to put the pan and actually three times, one to put the pan and the incense on it, another time to sprinkle the blood, and a third time to take it out the pan. And that's this verse, when he went in to take out the pan that he put in to begin with, the first time that he went in. Ufasha is big there, bud. After he took them, the spoon and the pan out, he then would don his golden garments. And the afternoon tamid, so after he did the service, that was the complete service of the Yom Kippur. That was his last thing he did for Yom Kippur service. That he took the pan out. Then he changed back into his regular 8 garments, and then he did the Korban Tamid, the afternoon Korban Tamid, which is the final service of the day, every day. That it started off with a Korban Tamid and ended off with a Korban Tamid on Yom Kippur too. So that was the last thing he did for the inner service, for the Yom Kippur service, and then he did the Tamid, the continuous sacrifice, which was brought every morning and every afternoon. So this was the order of the service that Rashi says. The morning Tamid, that was the morning Tamid. Every morning they brought a Tamid, a goat. In golden garments, that was the regular service. The service, then he would go, number 2, was the service involving the bull and the he-goat whose blood was sprinkled inside the holies, and the incense procedure, the burning coals in the pan. That was the next service. That was all done in white garments. Number 3, he then, his ram, the people's ram, and some of the additional sacrifices of the day, that was all done in golden garments, outside service. Number 4, now is verse 23. Number 4 is verse 23. And then removal of the spoon and the pan of the white in the white garments. And then, number 5, the remainder of additional service sacrifices at the afternoon tamid, and the incense precedes the heichal that's done every day. The chronological sequence of the verse correspond to the chronological order of the services follows verse 22. He shall send the he-goat to the desert. Verse 24. He shall immerse his flesh, then he shall go into sacrifice and burning offering. Verse 25. The fat offering and the sin offering, the remainder of the passage. Verse 26. And after that he may come into camp. And then now goes verse 23. So verse 23, Rashi says, the Gemara says, belongs really after verse 26. And Aaron shall enter the tent to meet it, take out the pan. V'nicham sham, what means he shall put it there? His linen garments that he wore to do the service in Yom Kippur, those linen garments, this teaches us, they require to be stored away forever. And he shall not use these 4 garments for any other Yom Kippur. So the linen garments that he wore Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest that wore the linen garments Yom Kippur, only wore it for that Yom Kippur and for the service that he did on that Yom Kippur, and that was it. And it was put away, and he never wore it again. Verse 24. And he shall immerse himself in the flesh in the holy place. And then he dons his regular 8 garments. Then he goes and does the burnt offering, his burnt offering, the burnt offering of the people. And he brings forgiveness to him and to the people. So Rashi says, above the verse 4, we learned that he shall immerse the water and don them. And when he changes from the golden garments to the white garment, he requires to immerse himself. For that immersion, he removed the golden garments, which he had performed the service of morning time. Subsequently changed into the white garments to perform the service of the day. Here we learn that when he changed from white garments to golden garments, it also requires immersion in the mikveh. So whenever he changed his garments, as we learned, he went to the mikveh on Yom Kippur. That day he went to the mikveh 5 times. One time in the morning before he came to the Beis Hamikdash, in his regular place where he always went to the mikveh every day. He went to the mikveh. And 4 times in the holy, which he did for Yom Kippur service. So every time he changed his garments, he went to the mikveh. So the Kohen Gadol went to the mikveh that day 5 times. It's interesting because even today, we don't go to the mikveh on Yom Kippur because now they're going to water. So the only one who went to the mikveh on Yom Kippur was the Kohen Gadol. 5 times that day he went to the mikveh. The Makom Kodesh, in a holy place, sanctified with the degree of holiness of the courtyard, of the temple. So that's what he meant to the mikveh in its roof in the chamber of the holy temple called Beth HaParva. This was a place that was facing right to the side of the Mizbeach. Actually, it was an open place. The mikveh was on the 2nd floor, and with the Gemara, there was a whole procedure. They used to put a curtain. They used to hold the curtain up that people shouldn't see him going to the mikveh. But he would go to the mikveh there in this place. It was the 2nd floor. It's a famous Gemara how they had a mikveh. There are 2 mikvehs in the Beis Hamikdash on the 2nd floor. How they got the water on the 2nd floor was a whole way, a whole very technological way to get the water. The Beis Hamikdash went on a mountain. How did they get the water to the Beis Hamikdash to begin with? And to the 2nd floor. They couldn't, because the mikveh, you're not allowed to take with buckets and put it into the mikveh. That makes it an unkosher mikveh. So this had to be mikveh water that the water came there naturally. So this was a very famous way they did it, how they made the water travel up towards the 2nd story in the Beis Hamikdash. And so was the 4 immersions, which were obligated of that day, except for the first immersion. As I told you, the first immersion was done before he came to do the Beis Hamikdash service. And the other 4 was done while the service was going on. So he went one time before he came to, in the morning, when he got up, whatever, if you got up in the morning, he went to the mikveh, wherever he was. That was his room where he was, also in the temple. He had a room there, and there was a mikveh there, and he went to the mikveh there. And then, when he got up, during the service, he went 4 times during the actual service in the Beis Hamikdash. And all 4 immersions, which were obligated of that day, except for the first immersion, which was performed in an unsanctified place, because this immersion, in preparation to the sacrament, that was done in an unholy place, so to say. Everything was holy, but in a place was not part of the Beis Hamikdash. It was outside. Was on the wall outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So every day was not, therefore, that's why not the 5th one, the first one is not really counted in the service of the temple of Yom Kippur, because that was the beginning. That started off the day that had to do in general before coming to the Beis Hamikdash. The Kohen Gadol went to the mikveh. V'lavash as begadol, meaning his regular 8 garments, in which he officiated all days of the year. The Yatzim Hechel, he went out of the Hechel, the holy, into the courtyard in which the altar with burnt offering was located. Namely, the ram for the burnt offering. That Aaron comes with a par. Remember the first pasuk. How does Aaron do the service of the temple? With a bull and a ram. So the bull was one offering, and the second offering was the ram. That was the oila. The bull was a chatos, the sin offering, and the ram was the burnt offering. And then he had the ram of the people. namely the one ram for the burnt offering, stated above in verse number 5. So from this community of Israel, he took a ram. So there was a goat and a ram that were taken. There was for the Jewish people, there was a ram for a sin, for a burnt offering. There was a goat for a sin offering, and there was another goat for Lazazel that was sent to the desert. So that was the 3 offerings to the Jewish people, and there was his 2 offerings: the bull and the ram. The bull for the sin offering, his sin offering, and the ram for his oila, his burnt offering. And that completes the Chumash for today. So the third time we're reading this Chumash, we should all already know this parsha pretty well. We are now going to go to the Tanya of the day. Today is the 24th day of Nisan, and we are in the middle of chapter 42 of Tanya. So in its describing earlier, the fear of a Jew should possess for God, the Alter Rebbe said that it should be similar to the fear he felt standing before a king. For God is omnipresent and all observes all man's actions. So he's standing before a king. He's standing for the King of Kings. Question arises: when one stands before a king, he's not only being seen by the king, but he's also looking at him. And this helps him stand for him. In the analogy, however, this is not the case. Though God, the king, sees him, we fail to see God. So the question is that how can you give me an analogy of I'm standing before a king when I don't see the king? So that's the problem. So the Alter Rebbe will now respond to this question. How does one have fear of a king when he doesn't see the king? By saying that there's yet another means in which an individual may awaken within himself the fear of God. By being able to see the king. For observing heavens and earth and all created beings that inhabit them, and realizing that they all derive their life from God. So that's why when you hear people say, I see God in nature. We should be able to see God. We should be able to see. Look at the world that we live in. If there's not a creator, where would there be this whole entire world that we live in? So we in essence, to be able to look at the world and to be able to realize that there's an energy, there's a godly energy that's in the world. How does the world exist? How does a created, beautiful world exist without a creator? Let's look at the words of the Alter Rebbe. In addition to this, one should remember, as in the case of a mortal king. What are we afraid of when we stand on a mortal king? We're afraid, what do you, like the example of a policeman. What are you afraid of the policeman? You're afraid of his body? We're afraid of the power that he has. He was given powers. When we stand before a king, we're afraid of his body. We're afraid of the power that he has. For when he sleeps, the king is sleeping, nobody's afraid of him. He's sleeping. When the policeman is not around, nobody's afraid of the policeman. He's still there, but he doesn't have power. He's not around. So nobody's afraid. So now that he's around, we're afraid of him. Why? Not because his body is still around, whether you see him, you don't see him. But what are we afraid of the policeman? The power that he has. We're afraid of the king, the power that he has. This is because while he sleeps, his inner essence of vitality is a state of concealment. Clearly then, they are the main reason for fearing the king while he's awake. So the power, how do you see the power? You see the power. But we know the power. We know the power of the king. And that's why we're afraid of him. Even though that we know the king has power, or that we know the policeman has power, is what? You see that power? No, that's an asechel. We know that the king has power. We know that the policeman has power. He has power over us. So what are we looking at? We'll look at the physical, or we're looking at what's behind the physical. What's behind the king? What's behind that policeman? It's in the mind. Through the physical eyes, beholding his body and his garments, knowing that his vitality is clothed, knowing that he's the king. There's a king in his body. There is a power in his body. There's just not that we're afraid of this king. We're afraid of what's in that body. We're afraid of what gives the strength to his body. He's a king. He's a body like me and you, but he's a king. In Cain, if you understand this analogy, this is the way you to be afraid of God. Look at the world. Look at this wondrous, beautiful world. Look at all the hosts of the world, all the heavens, all the stars, all the planets, all the trees, all the birds, all the animals. And realize, what is it? It's the power that's in this thing. It's the creator. And the Eibishter gives the power to all this creation. So the Alter Rebbe will now say that by looking at the heavens and the earth, don't look at nature, the beauty of nature. That's the problem. When we look at nature, we get lost into the beauty of nature. Look at the beauty of nature, what gives it its life. One not only becomes aware that there's a God vitalizing force, but also perceives how the world and all its inhabitants is truly nullified to divine force. If you understand that there cannot be a creation without a creator. So all this world, this can be perceived by observing the stars, the planets, all which travel in a westerly direction. In doing so, they express the nullification to the Shekhinah, the divine presence in which is in the west. So they're all traveling from east to west. They're all bowing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're all bowing to God. This is the color box is the Hagah index, I think that's called in English. It's also seen the glance of the eye, that they are all nullified. They're all nullified to the blessed light by the fact when they prostrate the whole day, towards the west at the time of their setting. As the Gemara says on the verse, we say this in our davening our day, and the host of the heaven bow before you. Because the Shekhinah is in the west. Hence, the entire day, not only do the heavenly host show their self-abnegation when they set in the west, but the daily orbit westward is a kind of prostrate and self-nullification. So we find it written that if the sun and the moon and the planets were to follow their natural characteristics, they would travel easterly rather than westerly direction. Not an astronomer. They would not do so, testify to the constant self-nullification of divine presence, which is found in the west. The 4 points of the compass are rooted into the supernal spheres, and Malchus, the level of Shekhinah, is in the west. Thus, even man's eyes observes self-nullification of the creation of the divine life force. even if one has never seen a king, and does not recognize him at all. When he enters the royal court, there the king is not revealed at all. It is not a place of his royal throne and the like. In analogy, this refers to the physical world, in which various proofs are necessary in order to bring about self-nullification to the king. So here, the Alter Rebbe, the Rebbe writes, this is noted by the Rebbe. So here, the world is like the courtyard of the king, right? We don't see the king's throne. That's what we say. Hashemayim, the Eibishter's throne is in heaven. We are in the earth. We are in the courtyard of God's palace. But what do we see in the courtyard? Like in a king's courtyard. Royim, Sarim, Harbim, Nechmadim. Here we see Sarim, great nobles, Rabin, Nechmadim. We see all these nobles, all the stars, and all the sun and the moon, and all the world. All of it is mishtach v'lishachad. Just like you come into the courtyard of the king, all these ministers and these big knackers are all bowing down to one king. So too, all the mazalas and all the upper worlds are all going westward. They're all bowing down to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the person who enters and looks superficially is unable to detect the difference between him and the men present. Noted the Rebbe. This is noted by the Rebbe. Because they're all bowing down to the king. The ministers and the simple person, as they come to the courtyard of the king, they're all bottled to the king. So can you imagine a simple man coming into the palace of the king, and even before he gets to the chamber of the king, he sees all these great entities and these great noblemen and these great politicians and these great big guys, so to say, and they're all bowing to the king, and he's bowing to the king like them. People of Eimim Afachad, they'll fall on him a dread and awe. See, look at the world, this powerful world, these powerful mazalis, powerful sun, this powerful moon, and they're all bowing to God. So too the self-nullification of God shown by the awesome creatures, such as the heavenly bodies, enables one to fear and awe of him. So the Alter Rebbe says, as the Rambam says, look at the world. Look at the world. You want to receive awe? Look at the world itself. And you'll be able to see how the whole world and the power of the world is all connected to it's all going, bowing itself for God. However, the question may be asked, when one gazes at the body of a physical king, he sees before him, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the king himself. He therefore can expatiate intellectually about the inner essence of vitality of the king that comes to fear. This is not so, however, with regard to physical creatures. The divine life force are so concealed within them through many garbs of concealment that it's quite possible for one to gaze at them and fail to be aware that their bodies are but garments for the life force that they contain. So the Alter Rebbe still, ultimately, that's the mind, still tells you, but how do you compare to that? The point is, I see a sun, I see a moon, I love looking at the stars, I see beautiful things, I'm an astronomer, and I don't see God. I see the physical entity. Alter Rebbe goes now to say that it is therefore important for a person who observes physical creature beings to cultivate the habit of immediately recalling within the concealment of their external trappings and garments. that as we find the godliness that animates them. That's why Alter Rebbe, don't get stuck in the physical. Looking too much at the physical, you might get stuck. Wow, beauty of nature. And nature is beautiful. And suddenly we get lost in the beauty of the natural. And we forget that there's a God who actually created and controls this natural phenomena. And therefore, the actual natural thing does know that. And therefore, as the sun, the moon, and everything goes westwards, because the sun and the moon knows that and comprehends that. Problem is, looking at the sun and the moon and all the beauty of this world, look at the natural. It's a natural thing. It's nothing to do with God. It's nature. Right, so we just give you an example. When you hear thunder and lightning, we make a bracha. A Jew makes a bracha. Power of God. It's one of the blessings we make when we hear thunder and lightning. So most people, thunder and lightning, clouds are hitting each other. It's a natural phenomenon. No, it's not. It's the Eibishter that's bringing about this phenomenon. It's God that's bringing about this phenomenon. That's why we make a blessing when there's thunder and lightning. That's why we have to, that's what he does, right? So you automatically make a bracha to realize that it's not just clouds hitting each other. It's the Eibishter bringing clouds to banging each other. It's God bringing about this thundering and this lightning. The Rebbe now goes on to say, right, so that's, you have to think for a moment right away. Don't right away think about the nature, what's happening. Right, that's what we daven. Masha Baruch, the Geshem with his rain, it's the Eibishter who brings Geshem. It's God who brought Geshem. The hurricane is the Eibishter bringing the hurricane. It's not just a natural phenomenon. It's the creation of God. God created this hurricane, and God wants this power to come to the world. By doing so, one is able to receive divine force found within the world. Although many garments are involved in this message, ultimately, you listen to the forecast, and they're telling you why exactly this is going to be a hurricane, and why it's going to, where the clouds are moving and everything. So you can all get lost into the whole analogies and the whole explanations of, because the Eibishter clothed himself in so many garments within nature that ultimately we can come up with the reasons why this is going to happen. So that when one gazes at a creature beings, one does not perceive that they are but garments to divine. Realize, when you look at nature, realize that even though this tree looks beautiful, even though this situation looks beautiful, and it seemingly has its own trappings, and it's all a garment of a garment of a garment of a garment. To what? To a divine energy that animates this thing. And therefore, if you comprehend that, therefore there's no distinction. The fear of a mortal king, whether the king is naked, whether the king is wearing one garment, whether the king is wearing a million garments. Why? Why when there's a king in front of you? The king can be naked, the story of the king's naked, or the king is wearing 1,000 garments, still the king. Oh, but the king is lost within the 1,000 garments, still the king. So too, within nature, that God, so to say, clothed himself with 1,000 garments, still the king. It's still the Eibishter that is clothed in that garment. So that has to be the realization. When you look at nature, don't get lost in the garments. Realize that there's something in the garments. There's something that's in this whole natural phenomenon, and that's the energy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's life force of God. So a realization that the king is found within the garments creates a fear. There you realize that it's not the garments that I'm afraid of. It's not the garments that I'm in awe of. It's the king that I'm in awe of. The same, the Alter Rebbe will conclude true here. When a person becomes accustomed to remember that when he gazes upon created beings, he is to realize he's gazing on a king's garments, that when he looks at a physical thing, he's not just looking at the physical, but he's looking at the physical garments, he's looking in the inside, the animated force. Like the garment of the king. What makes this the garment of a king? Because the king is wearing it. If the same garment was worn by somebody else, it wouldn't be the garment of the king. What makes this the garment of the king? Because the king is wearing it. And it doesn't make a difference if the king is wearing one garment, as the Alter Rebbe says, he's wearing 1,000 garments. All come garments of the king because he's in it. And that's what a person has to train, become a habit. The essential, however, is to train in a habit. One mind, you have to train your mind. You have to train. I need to train my mind, that my mind comes to when it comes to realize, till it becomes a habit to me. That it comes to when I look at something, I see the energy of it. I don't see just a thing. It should be imprinted in his heart. A person should train his mind that with everything that he sees in his eyes, the heavens and the earth and all that is in it, they're all outer garments. They're all outer garments for who? For the king. Everything in the world is garments of the Eibishter. Everything in the world does their garmenting as a garment to a king. This is something, the Alter Rebbe is a powerful thing in us. The Alter Rebbe wanted that we should be able, through our mind and through to come to the realization that everything that we see, a tree, a car, ground, the sun, the moon, all are levushim, are all garments to the king. And therefore, when I see a beautiful tree, I say, wow, how beautiful is the king, how in awe. So now I say how great the creator is of this tree. And in this way, he will continuously remember the innards and vitality. What is the true vitality of this beautiful tree? What is the true vitality of the moon? What is the true vitality of the sun? What is the true vitality of the stars? What is the true vitality of everything that happens in the world? Here, you have the Rebbe, our Rebbe, explained that now, that what now follows answers a question. How can we possibly say that the nullification of the world to God is a concept that can be perceived intellectually? When in chapter 33, the Alter Rebbe explained that it's a matter of faith. And in this chapter 2, we have learned that it's a matter of faith, that all Jews are believers, descendants of believers, and so on. Faith and intellect are not only distinct entities, they're antithetically. For example, when something is understood, faith is not necessary. So do we have to have faith or we have to have understanding? Now, the Rebbe, therefore, now goes on to explain that this intellectual perception is also implicit in the word emunah, faith. For this word is etymologically rooted in the word uman, an artisan. In order for an artist with a talent for painting or creating a vessel or ever to be successful, he must habitate and train his hands. Only then would he reveal the latent talent of the oddities he found in his soul. So that's what Alter Rebbe says. They both go together. Emunah, faith, and one's belief in himself, and he brings out his faith in his mind. That's a true uman. That's a true artisan. So a sculptor that makes a beautiful sculpture, or a painter that makes a beautiful painting, he has the whole painting in his mind already, and he believes he can do it. The talent, he has faith in his talent, and he brings out the talent into a reality, because in his mind, he has the picture already. We all have to be, that's the way our emunah should be. Our emunah, our faith should be so strong that it's like a picture in our mind. So a regular person looks at this piece of stone or looks at a canvas, he can't imagine what's going to come out on this canvas. But a painter knows what's going to come out. He already knows what's going to come out because he knows he has that capability. He knows that he has that inner capability to bring out a beautiful painting on this empty canvas, because he has true faith in himself, and he's a true omen, he's a true artisan. If he didn't have the talent, you could have all the faith, it's not going to happen. So you have to have the talent, and then you have to have the faith in your talent to bring out this beautiful painting. So too, the same is true here. The soul of every Jew possesses an above mental faith. However, in order for the faith to be actualized, so that one's action will be conscious with it, one must have it to train himself to realize that all he sees, heaven and earth, are all, and all creation are but God's external. That's the way you bring out your faith. We need to be artisans. We need to be professionals in our faith. We need to be professionals, and we need to train ourselves to become professionals in faith. So even though we all have faith, ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, we are believers, the sons of believers. It's in our DNA, but we're not professionals because we haven't professioned it. We haven't professionalized it. So therefore, we're all doing things, might be doing things not complete. A jack of all trades, professional at none. So we're not doing it. Why? Because we're not focused on taking that talent, on taking that faith, and making it a profession. We need it, and that's why the Alter Rebbe says emunah and uman are the same word. Faith and uman means artisan, a professional. Knows how to take his faith and bring it into a reality. We need to do the same. We need to take our faith and say, you know what? Wow, I see the beauty I see the real beauty in this beautiful painting. Because I know the painter. Because I'm a professional faith. I'm a profession in faith. And therefore, I'm a talented person in faith that I see everything in life. I see the artist. Because I know I'm a talent in faith. I know what it means to have faith. And that's not have faith. I'm a professional faith. And that is just like a painter. He has the faith, he has within him the capability, and he brings it out into a reality. That he paints this picture. And it's painted in his mind, first of all. So the whole painting is in his mind. As a sculptor, the whole sculpture is in his mind. We should be able to have the whole world within our mind. That the whole world, we see the artist. We see the artist. We see the painter. We see the creator. This is a powerful concept. That's, if you understand this, you understand what real faith is. Because everybody has faith. But they don't realize what means to have faith. It's not just a cliche word, faith. So I'm going to say it in Tanya, but God, external God, but by constantly remember that their inner is godliness, the soul essential faith will be revealed and will affect one's action. That's the artist. That's when I become an artist. That's when I become real faith, because I become a real artist of my existence. I paint the picture. And I don't only paint the picture in my mind, I paint the picture in reality. I create the picture. We, each and every one of us, need to become a painter. Not somebody else should paint my picture. The Rebbe once asked a young lady, who was a photographer, he said, what's the difference between a person that takes a picture and a person that paints? A person that takes a picture actually catches the thing more real than a person that paints. But ultimately, a painter makes more money for his picture than a person that catches a picture. Because when a person takes a picture, he does nothing. He's catching somebody else. When a painter paints a painting, he's painting himself. It's his talent. He's revealing his talent. He's revealing his potential, his capability. It's his picture. It's not somebody else's picture. It's his picture. That's the beauty of a painting. And that's why a painting is much more precious than just catching a picture with a camera. And it has value forever. So that we should all become professionals in faith. So the soul's essential faith will be revealed, because then when I become a professional, I reveal my faith, I reveal my talent. That's when it becomes a real thing. His bodily organs will follow the dictates of his faith. As the Alter Rebbe says, this is implicated in the word emuna, faith. Shuloshen regilus, which is term indicates training. Faith is training. Shemargil adam es atzme, in which a person habituates himself. He gets used to. He creates this reality. Like a craftsman that trains his hands and so forth. So look at a craftsman. Craftsman has such faith. He has such his talent. Is so powerful in his mind that he has the picture in his mind that his hand paints what his mind has dictated him to do. The Rebbe notes, our Rebbe notes, that who trains his hands means he is cognizant of the craft in his soul. He has a natural talent for it, but needs only to train his hands so that it will find a tangible expression in his actions, be it through art, fashioning vessels and the like. That's the greatness. The Rebbe would say that's the greatness coming from Pesach of Shmura matzah, handmade matzah. You can have machine-made matzah. You can have handmade. Some people say machine-made matzah is maybe more the machine doesn't make any mistakes. The hand can make mistakes. But handmade matzah is a talent. Handmade matzah is a human talent, not a machine. We're not machines. We're human beings. And when we take our talent and we bring out our talent, that's the matzah we want to eat. That's the matzah we should eat on Pesach, at least. For surely for the Seder, the human being that makes mistakes and is not a machine, and not every matzah is going to look the same, and not every matzah is going to be the same round shape, because even the person himself cannot create the same thing over and over, and might make a mistake. Somebody needs to check that the matzah is kosher, but that's shmura matzah because it's made by hand. It's made by a talented person, and a person who put his effort and did a l'shem mitzvah. The machine cannot have l'shem mitzvah. The person can have l'shem mitzvah. He did it l'shem mitzvah, and he used his talent, and he used his all strength and all his capability, and ultimately took a work of his hand, created shmura matzah, and created the matzah that we eat. This is the beauty when a Jew realizes that every talent, every situation, he can paint a picture with his hand, that every situation that happens in life is all min hashamayim, it's all his faith. It's all his emunah. It's all about his faith in God. Thus, the analogy contains both aspects. The king sees the individual, and he sees the king. That's what the power of faith is. If I have true faith, I see the king. I see the picture. Not something that is believing. I am a professional. I've trained myself. I've worked on myself to be a professional in faith, that I can train myself to see the king, to see God in everything. As it were, by looking at the created beings and perceiving through them the divine life force that vitalizes, to realize I've trained myself through my faith. Again, if I wouldn't have faith, I wouldn't be able to train myself. I don't have the talent. I cannot train myself to have a talent. The Eibishter gave me every talent. The Eibishter gave me faith. We all need to train ourselves in the talent that we have. What is our talent as Jews? As we said, maminim b'nei maminim. Our talent is we are believers, some believers. We all believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We all believe in God. It might be a hidden belief, but that's a talent we all have. Let us become professional in our talent. Let us become professional in our faith. That we'll be able to, each and every one of us, take that talent that God gave us and become professional to be able to see the picture. Not to see somebody else's picture, I'm going to see the picture myself. I'm going to see the picture of my faith. What is my faith? I believe in God, that everything is created by God, and everything is animated by God, and everything is vitalized by God. And I see it. I see it. I just don't see the tree. I see the energy. I see the godliness that is in the tree. I don't see the beautiful ocean. I see the godliness that's in that ocean. And so on and so forth. What a beautiful Tanya of today. And that completes the Tanya of today. Beautiful, beautiful teaching of the Alter Rebbe. Today is the 24th day of the month, which is from chapter 113 to chapter 118. It's actually the Hallel. Fits very well with the Tanya of today, to say the Hallel, to thank God for all the creation of the world and for being the Jewish nation, etc., etc. So it's in to say this Tillim today and to thank the Eibishter for the whole world and for everything that it created, because I see God in everything that is created in this world. I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day, and Amir Shem will see you all tomorrow at 8 o'clock for the Chitas of today.